What's up everybody, we're back on the Shadowlands beta and today we'll be taking a look at the bright and oh so shiny new Protection Paladin. I'll be going over what's new, what's old, the new Covenant system for Protection Paladins and the overall feel of the class, spec and gameplay. I will also insert the standard "this is beta" disclaimer. This is beta, so tuning can and will change, talents can change, Covenant stuff can change, pretty much most things can change. And lastly, a lot of this will be my personal opinion, so do with that what you will. With that out of the way, let's start off with what's new. In Blizzard's new wave of nostalgia, they are bringing holy power back to Protection, and a few old core abilities along with it. So mechanically it plays-ish like it did in BFA, but at the same time not at all. The overall feel of the rotation with holy power is, in my opinion, a lot smoother, fast-paced, and so far pending tuning solves a lot of issues Prot had in both Legion and BFA with their active mitigation. So instead of having charges and cooldowns on Shield of the Righteous, it is now a spender. You build holy power with Avenger's Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, or Blessed Hammer, as well as Hammer of Wrath. And yes, Hammer of Wrath is back. They all give you one holy power each, however, Avenger's Shield has the added bonus of giving you one extra holy power when it deals damage to a target for the first time. And this works on the bounces as well, so throw it into a pack of mobs and boom, you have full holy power. Shield of the Righteous and Word of Glory each cost 3 holy powers, they are your spenders. Shield of the Righteous works the same as in BFA, deals damage to targets in front of you and gives you armor. Word of Glory is the revamped Light of the Protector. You can use this on any target, but if you use it to heal yourself, its healing is increased by up to 300% based on your missing health. So unlike the old Light of the Protector, which you needed to talent into Hand of the Protector to be able to heal other targets, this always can, but weaker when used on other targets than yourself. Judgment currently does not give you any holy power, but it debuffs your target, so your next holy power spending ability deals 25% more damage, so Shield of the Righteous. But it also gives you 1 stack of Shining Light, which reduces the cost of Word of Glory by 1, stacks up to 3, so Judgment 3 times in your Word of Glory is free, which kinda brings it in line cooldown wise with our old self-heal, which was around 18 seconds baseline. So if there's a lot of magic damage, you can opt to use Word of Glory more often at the sacrifice of SOTR uptime, or to keep your mitigation up and use your free Word of Glories when needed. And for me at least, this system feels very good gameplay wise, and you can do a lot more of it. There's more choice behind it, if you will. Now, due to this transition into holy power era of Protodin, a lot of talents have been revamped to fit this playstyle. Some talents have been removed, new talents have taken their place, there's also been some swapping around in the talent tree, mostly for the better. So let's go over the talent tree. First row, you have Holy Shield, Redoubt, and Blessed Hammer. Holy Shield works the same, but Redoubt now increases your strength and stamina by 2% for 10 seconds, and it stacks 3 times. So, completely revamped. It offers a lot more to our toolkit than the previous iteration of this talent, works well against both physical and magical damage. Pending tuning, I can see this one scale quite well with gear, but we'll see where we land. Blessed Hammer, on the other hand, it now reduces the next damage targets hit by it deals by X amount instead of them dealing less damage with their next auto attack. So works on all damage now, which is huge. Another thing to note is that because you can cast Blessed Hammer anywhere, you can stack up holy power in between pulls or before pulling a boss, which means you can have your Shield of the Righteous up before or as you're pulling a mob or pack instead of 1-2 globals into the fight, which depending on boss can be the difference between a dead tank and a healthy tank. Of course, there's workarounds even without Blessed Hammer. This is the talent I've been defaulting so far on beta. It just feels great. Having damage reduction on both magic and physical attacks, as well as more to fill up your global cooldowns with, and being able to gain holy power out of combat or as you're running to packs just feels so good. To the point that I'd rather actually have this as a baseline ability. It shouldn't be a talent. Just remove Hammer of Righteous and replace it with Blessed Hammer as it is right now. It will do wonders for this spec. Anyways, second row we now have first Avenger Avenger, Crusader's Judgment, and Moment of Glory instead of Bastion of Light. First Avenger has been revamped and works a lot better now with our toolkit. Avenger's Shield now hits 2 additional targets and grants you an absorb for 100% of all damage it deals, meaning it includes the bounces. So instead of the old one where it did 50% damage to the first target hit and proc 10% more, which was kinda never picked, you now have something that works extremely well in multi-target encounters, offering more holy power per pack due to 1 extra holy power when you hit a target for the first time, as well as a substantial absorb after, which just adds to the pleasure that is the Avenger Shield spam in dungeons and multi-target encounters. Crusader's Judgment stays the same as in BFA, and it is still a great talent. Moment of Glory, the replacement for Bastion of Light, has been changed a few times on Alpha and Beta already, as far as I know, so might be that this will change again. But in its current state, 1.5 minute cooldown resets the cooldown off Avenger's Shield, and your next 3 Avenger's Shield have no cooldown and deals 20% more damage. Haven't tried this out a whole lot, but it does add a lot of burst on cleave, but all in all, in my opinion, not going to be a strong contender for this talent row, unless they change it some more. But of course there might be a situation where the added interrupts will be great or that extra burst might be necessary. Third row, you have Fist of Justice, Repentance, and Blinding Light. Only difference here is that Fist of Justice reduces cooldown on your Hammer of Justice based on holy power spent now. And for the fourth row, Unbreakable Spirit, Cavalier, and Blessing of Spell Warding. Retribution Aura is gone, and Unbreakable Spirit has been moved up to this row now instead, offering more to this row than previously. As in BFA, you kinda went with, do you need spell warding? No, then double horse. Now you have the Unbreakable Spirit talent instead, which is just an overall great talent. Other than that, the talents themselves work the same. Fifth row, more swaps here as well. On this row, you now have Divine Purpose, Holy Avenger, and Seraphim. Divine Purpose, Holy Power abilities have a 15% chance to make your next Holy Power ability free and deal 20% increased damage or healing. Holy Avenger, a 3-minute CD, lasts for 20 sec, your Holy Power generation is tripled, and Seraphim is Seraphim, but it now costs free Holy Power. Right off the bat, Divine Purpose playstyle is something I personally enjoy a lot, and with the new Holy Power system it feels even better. And it has so many interactions with both our normal toolkit as well as a few of the covenants that we will address later. But due to the fact that it procs off Holy Power abilities and not our Holy Power spent, you can have it proc off, for example, your free or cost reduced Word of Glories. Feels good moment when you have no Holy Power, no mitigation up, you're on low HP, and you press that free Word of Glory, proc Divine Purpose, and get yourself a Shield of Righteous right off the bat. As for Holy Avenger, a 3-minute cooldown for triple Holy Power generation might see some uses, but Holy Power really isn't an issue at the moment. You get so much as it is, and against Divine Purpose, it just feels a bit lackluster to me. Then there's Seraphim. Seraphim will always have its uses unless they nerf it or secondary stats to the ground. It will always be good. And here it works just as it does in BFA. Sixth row, Hand of the Protector, Consecrated Ground, and Judgment of Light. Gone is the Ages of Light. Hand of the Protector now increases healing done by Word of Glory by up to 300% based on its target missing health. So as I mentioned earlier, in BFA you needed this talent to be able to heal other targets, but in Shadowlands it now adds the 300% increased healing on other targets than yourself. Consecrated Ground and Judgment of Light works the same as before. This row feels pretty solid to me, at least. If you need slows for kiting, Consecrated Ground. Need more off healing in dungeons or perhaps for your co-tank where this will shine a lot, go Hand of the Protector. None of the above, go Judgment of Light for some extra healing. Last row, we have Sanctified Wrath, Righteous Protector, and Final Stand. Sanctified Wrath being the new talent. Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and causes Judgment to generate 2 Holy Power, turning an already great cooldown into an even stronger cooldown. In a lot of cases though, more holy power isn't something we necessarily need. However, there will most likely be moments where this will be very handy, as the overflow of holy power means you can just spam your Word of Glory a lot more during this. And with the added healing and crit chance, you'll be able to cram a lot of healing during this cooldown, while still being able to maintain near 100% uptime on your mitigation. So will definitely be good for some encounters. Righteous Protector now lowered the cooldown on Avenging Wrath and Guardian of the Ancient Kings by 1 second per holy power spent. And the addition of lowering cooldown on Guardian of Ancient King as well makes this so much more appealing. And Final Stand has been moved to this row. Works the same as before, and it is still a very strong contender, even when put up against Sanctified Wrath and Righteous Protector. All in all, I really like the overall changes they made to Protection Paladin so far. The new-ish Holy Power system feels amazing, the new talent updates makes a lot more sense to me, and feels a lot more impactful this time around. And as far as old abilities goes, as I mentioned, Hammer of Wrath is back, Sense Undead and Turn Evil as well. But wait! There's more. Auras! Auras are back on the menu. Devotion Aura, 3% damage reduction to your party and raid. Consecration Aura, interrupts and silence effects on party and raid members are 30% shorter. Crusader Aura increases mounted speed by 20% to your party and raid. And Retribution Aura, when any party or raid member within 40 yards die, you gain Avenging Wrath for 8 seconds. Hey-oh, Progression Aura! All in all, just great to see Auras back. Personally, don't really care too much what they do, I just like having my auras. But Devo Aura will probably see a lot of use. So now that we're done with the playstyle, skills and talents, let's take a look at the new Covenant system. First out, we have the Necrolord, which will give you Vanquisher's Hammer and Fleshcraft. So the Necrolord ability is Vanquisher Hammer, 30-sec cooldown, and it empowers your next Word of Glory to instantly trigger Shield of the Righteous. Triggers both the damage aspect as well as the armor increase. So exactly as it reads, when you use your self-heal, you also cast SOTR when empowered by this. And this is really good for numerous reasons. For one, it works with the free casts of Word of Glory, which I previously mentioned is due to the judgment changes. So a free cast of Word of Glory with this skill will also give you a free cast of SOTR, which can also trigger Divine Purpose. So if RNG is on your side, you spend 1 Holy Power for the Vanquisher Hammer cast, but you effectively get 9 Holy Power for free, 8 if you count in the Vank Hammer. It also fills in some gaps in your active mitigation and will be really useful to just increase our mitigation as well. Biggest down part for me at the moment is that it feels a bit clunky to use at times. The rotation at the moment as Prot Paladin is very spammy, which I love, especially on multiple targets. So adding in a single target smack just for the proc just feels a bit clunky, but something I can live with. But it feels a lot better on single target where your rotation is not quite as spammy. Now on to the Fleshcraft. Fleshcraft is the same for any and all classes and specs. It's their signature ability. If you go Necrolord, you get Fleshcraft. 4-second channel gives an absorb the size of 20% of your maximum HP. Using this, near corpses can increase this by up to a maximum of 50% of your HP. The more powerful the enemy, the bigger the increase. By itself, it's decent, a bit annoying to play with as a 4-second channel which you can't parry or dodge through has its obvious downsides when you're tanking. However, in most raiding environments, there will be moments to channel this, as well as in between packs in dungeons. And a lot of the soul binds through your Covenant are powered by Fleshcraft or gives you additional buffs, so if you do go Necrolord, it's something you should be doing. For example, one soul bind gives you buffs depending on what enemies you Fleshcraft. Secondary stat increases like 5% haste, 2% mastery, or heal anytime you defeat an enemy, etc, etc. There's a ton of them. And you can have all of these at the same time, and each buff lasts 6 minutes. So if you Fleshcraft on cooldown, or at least once per 6 minutes in a dungeon environment, you'll be getting a lot of tiny buffs, which adds up. There's also a soul bind that increases your max HP by currently up to 20% when you use Vank Hammer 4 times and then Fleshcraft, which if tuning stays like this will be pretty crazy. With that said, let's go over to Kyrian instead. Going Kyrian gives you Divine Toll and Summon Steward, aka the Swolekin. So let's take a look at Divine Toll. Now this is a very fun button to press. 1 minute cooldown, instantly cast Avenger Shield on up to 5 targets within 30 yards. And yes, it's 5 Avenger Shield, not one that bounces 5 times. 5 shields that all bounce, all interrupt, all grant holy power. And the synergy and application of this is numerous, unless there's only one mob, but more on that soon. But let's talk about it in a dungeon or AoE setting. So first of all, it does great damage on its own. Having 5 bouncy shields is just awesome, but it also serves as a pseudo AoE interrupt, 5 target interrupt, 3 sec silence on them. It also caps out your holy power instantly, if there's enough targets of course, and it synergizes with talents like First Avenger that now grants you an absorb based on the total damage per Avenger shield, including the bounces. And to top it off, pending tuning, it also works with the new legendary that increases damage done by Shield of the Righteous by 30% per target hit by Avenger shield. Caps out on 5 targets though, which to be fair makes sense, but it does make for a very fun opener where you can Avenger shield into SOTR, into Divine Toll, into SOTR again, and burst like crazy. Please don't nerf this. But also the fact that it shoots out from you 2 targets within 30 yards makes for a great tool in M+, where you can have caster mobs spread out that you then pop Divine Toll on, interrupt them all around you. Great for annoying packs, great for bosses that have spread ads and spawning and stuff like that. All in all, it's just a lot of fun to press, unless you're on single target. Because in all fairness, on single target it's just an extra Avenger's shield on a 1-minute cooldown, which isn't all that great when compared to other Covenant abilities for that purpose. Unless the bosses have ads, that is. Now on to the Swolekin. On a 5-minute cooldown, summon Steward, well, it summons a Steward Swolekin. This little fellow gives you 3 vials of Serenity that restores 15% HP and removes all curse, disease, poison and bleed effects on use. And it's on a separate cooldown from Healthstone and Health Pot, so pretty much an extra button that also removes a lot of nasty debuffs. Throughout raid testing it seemed to remove a lot of the boss's bleeds, for example. Could change before this go live, but seeing as they're really pushing the Covenant system and this being one of the signature spells, I don't think they will change that, but we'll see. Other than that, it also gives you access to a vendor, so you can vendor items, an option to change talents without a tome, and you can tell one of your friends that they're awesome, which pending tuning is the best part. And just like all the other signature abilities summoned, Swolekin is the same for all classes and spec. On to the Venthyr. Ashen Hollow and Door of Shadows. Ashen Hollow on a whopping 4-minute cooldown. Hallow the targeted area for 30 seconds. The area being huge deals a ton of damage to a enemy within this area. Every 2 sec, lowered by haste, and heals you every 2 sec as well. On top of this, it allows you to use Hammer of Wrath on any target while you're standing on the hallowed ground, regardless of your target's HP. This one is currently, at least as far as I know, under the Eye of Blizzard tuning, so chances are it will get changed somehow, because it is a bit lackluster. It does a ton of damage on a single target, but does not scale with multiple targets at all. So even if you have 20 mobs inside it, it still only ticks on 1 target, which for me, tuning aside, is just boring. Just very, very boring. The animation and looks of it, not to mention the 4-minute cooldown, just feels like it should melt packs, or at least do something. Maybe along the line of increasing the damage a bit on multiple targets and split it, so Ashen Hallow's damage is increased by X target, but its damage is split. Or even better, give it a leech effect on top of it. It hates Venthyr, so if the cape fits. Tuning and changes aside, it's decent on bosses for pure damage and a tiny bit of increase in holy power generation, but that's about it. Looks hella dope though, so I'm hoping they give it some more love. Now for the Door of Shadows. Few peeps who follow things that happens on the alpha and beta have probably already seen tons and tons and tons of this. It is very good. 1-minute cooldown, 35-yard range teleport for any class and spec. The uses are endless. Sure, it has a cast time, but it's like 1.5 sec, so yes, it's not a panic blink a la mages, but there's still a lot that can be done with this, as far as skips goes, avoiding mechanics and stuff of that nature, and the animation itself is really good. I haven't personally tried this part out, but it's supposed to have a lot less pathing issues or restrictions than other teleports or jumps. Otherwise, not a whole lot to say. You get to teleport. Low mobility classes rejoice. Now on to Night Fae, which gives you Blessing of Seasons and Foxy Form or Soul Shape. Blessing of Seasons is 4 different blessings, or rather 1 that changes between the 4: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Blessing of Spring increases healing done by 10% and healing received by 20%. Turns into summer after use. Blessing of Summer causes your attacks to have 40% chance to deal 30% additional damage as holy. Turns into autumn. Blessing of Autumn causes your cooldowns to recover 50% faster. Turns to winter. Blessing of Winter, your attacks deal X frost damage and reduces enemies' movement speed by 3%, attack speed by 1%, stacks up to 10%. Winter
gave spring and summer a miss and went straight on into autumn.
And they all last 30 seconds. All of these blessings can be used on yourself or allies. Set rotation, follows the seasons after all. Now this one is both interesting and potentially really annoying, at least as a tank, and I'll go over why in a bit. But let's look at the blessings themselves at first. So starting off, we have Spring, which is more healing and healing received. As a tank, this is just a great blessing. More healing is almost never bad. Summer, you can potentially get some pretty decent numbers with this one. 40% chance to proc. Doesn't seem to have any internal cooldown right now at least, but could be wrong on that one. However, it only seems to proc on one target. So if you use an AoE, it won't proc on all the targets, it will proc on one of them if it does proc. Autumn causes your cooldowns to recover 50% faster. Seems to be a bit buggy at the moment on beta, but having your cooldowns recover faster is just awesome. You know, more uptimes on your tank cooldowns, on your DPS cooldown, and speeds up your overall rotational abilities as well. And Venthyr, the most interesting part of this, for me at least, is the attack speed reduction, which stacks up to 10. Sure, movement speed isn't bad either, but if I want that, I just spec into Consecrated Grounds. The damage part of this is nothing to get excited by right now at least, but some damage is better than no damage. Not sure if it works on bosses though, the attack speed reduction, but if it does, it will be fairly big. Sadly, right now it looks like it doesn't proc off AoE or cleave either, so you can't stack it up on a pack of mobs, for example, which is something I personally would have liked it to do. Would give it a lot more use in a dungeon environment, both as a potential kiting ability, but more as a defensive skill. All in all, as a tank, I'm a bit skeptical to this one. On paper, and when I first tried it, it seemed pretty fun and good, but once I tried it during some raid testing and in dungeons, it was pretty bland. Don't get me wrong, it's very good. Numbers wise, it's really good, but in my head, I kinda treat it as a cooldown, and from that aspect, it's just boring. Sometimes you heal a bit more, sometimes you do a little more damage, and sometimes your cooldowns recharge a bit faster. And I'm afraid that in most cases it's going to end up being used on anyone but yourself as a tank. Like, why would I buff myself as a tank to sometimes deal 30% additional damage when I could be using it on a DPS? And for some players that's fine, some people will like that aspect, being the support master that Paladin is, but personally I'm not a big fan of that. But again, it is very good, just not fun. For me at least. Now on to the Night Phase signature move, which is Soul Shape. On 1.5 minute cooldown, turns you into a Vulpin, teleporting you 15 yards forward, then increases your movement speed by 50%. And you may reactivate this every few seconds to teleport again. Last 12 seconds or indefinitely while in rested areas. This is just awesome, especially with the latest change that teleport is instant. Previously you hopped into fox form, then you had to reactivate it to teleport. Now it's instant, which as a tank and especially a slow-mo prot paladin, this is just beyond priceless. And a 50% movement speed increase for 12 seconds is just so good. And there's some abilities you can use while in this form, and others that will break it. Not sure where Blizzard will land on this, but if, for example, at the moment, you can spam Blessed Hammer while being a Vulpin. But if you pop Consecrate, you're back to normal form. Point being, if it stays like this, where you can use some abilities, it's going to add a lot as a tank when you can pick up multiple packs, but still generate a bit of threat on them so they don't beeline instantly for your healers. Long story short, looks great, feels great, is great. Now, for the soulbinds and conduits themselves that all the covenants have, I'll be doing this in another video dedicated to only this, because these keep on changing a lot during the beta and they keep adding new ones, so I'd rather cover it when they're in a more finished state. But I will say this, with all of the current soulbinds and conduits, there's something to fit almost any playstyle, be it PvP, dungeons, or raids. And as far as the legendaries goes, I'll also cover this in a later video for the same reasons as the binds and conduits. But all in all, I really enjoyed the new Protection Paladin. Tuning wise, it's way too early to say. Blizz can swing that nerf hammer around at any point or change something. Right now though, they're very strong both for dungeons and raiding, which is something I do hope they'll continue to be. I am a bit biased, I really love the shield throwing spam and overall playstyle Protection Paladin has, and this time around it's even more fun. So if nothing changes gameplay wise and you've enjoyed Prot Paladin in Legion and BFA, I can almost guarantee you'll have even more fun with them on Shadowlands. Shadowlands. And while not looking at the gameplay, their toolkit is even stronger this time around and can be changed up even more with the different covenants. And that's pretty much it for this look. Got way longer than I thought it would be, but there's so much to cover with the new covenants, and they're all part of the new Protection Paladin's toolkit. I'll be covering more of the tanks on beta, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in more tanks. And with that said, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out. Ring that notification bell. Don't forget to check out my Patreon where you can get access to my Stankie Discord. I'll also start streaming soon on Twitch, so make sure to check me out there at Stankie Gaming. Will be lots of beta testing as well as retail raiding. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.